0 total listeners we've got on Rumble at this point for the Red Pill Nation Hangout number 433. I am your host and still somewhat sane member of society, Naroki 5. With me tonight is I will say he's my partner in crime. Sometimes he's here a lot, sometimes he's not, but he's in a phase where he's available at the moment. So, and he's the only other person on to right now. So, V, introduce yourself.
Well, I like to think of myself as an integral part of the show. Whenever I can. I wouldn't be one of the three amigos there, but like I said, it's just availability, and if I'm available, I'm definitely always going to be on the show. Unless you have some knuckleheads on that like to swarm and take over the show, then I'll just sit back. But
yeah.
Other than that, I'm V. I'm here.
You're here, but you're not necessarily all there. That's the case with me as well.
But at least I'm not queer. I'm here. I'm not queer. All right. You know what? We really need Rearson on too.
Yeah, no, Rearson's going through some stuff right now. Okay. And I mean, I have to kind of respect that with him right now. He might be back, he might not, but I have to kind of respect that with him. Okay. For those of you who don't know, I'm at Patreon. Oh, wait a second. Hold on a second here. Let me just put that banner in. There we go. All right, there we go. Yeah, I'm at the patreon.com as the Red Pill Nation. For those of you who don't know, unfortunately, I could have swore I put it in the low bar on the actual feed, but it's not there. I am at in order of number of people that are actually are subbed: BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, MGTOW TV, Brighteon, which finally crossed 100 subs here this week. Like in the last week or so, finally got to 100. That was my big news. And of course, YouTube, which I really don't give a F about at all. But I do actually have a YouTube channel. They're all as Naroki 5. I'm also at Facebook, Minds, Gab, MeWe, Getter, TLB Talks, and I'm also at Tumblr and a couple of other places. When I actually checked, I was surprised to find out there's a few places that I actually am at that I didn't know about. That's it. So the topics for tonight. Hold on a second here. Let me just find the topics for tonight. So the topics for tonight. And we are starting off with a couple of things that V's not overly familiar with because he doesn't really do Canada much. Mark Carney calls quick election for Canada. I can't remember whether it's April the 18th or April the 28th. I am not sure which. I'm going to have to go check here. Let me just do a quick search engine check here.
See, this is like Naroki and V. Do Canada.
Okay, the Canadian election date is April the 28th, end of April. So he called the election for April the 28th, not April the 18th. My mistake. Founder, this is a personal one with me. Founder of the Sterling Institute of Relationship, Justin Sterling, dies. Topic number 3, BBC puts out a shameful, poorly researched TV show against the Manosphere called Adolescence. And boy, was it bad. I didn't see it, so my responses are going to be kind of limited. Based upon the stuff that I saw with the guys from the Manosphere reviewing it, boy, there's a few things to say about that one. Um, Reporter accidentally included on call with high-ranking members of the White House, aka Signalgate. Then we have the Donald Trump section, which is more the government section. One, FEMA is being gutted. The emergency services are being moved back to the states. Two, NPR and PBS are getting defunded. CDC, HHS, and the FDA are getting major cutbacks. And then we have the FBI section. Ray Epps was sentenced. He didn't go to jail. And not the Epstein files, but the Epstein video content was taken out of custody of the New York field office, and a copy of it was sent to every single field office in the United States. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that. So there's a there's not really whole lot to say about this. This particular episode is except for the Canadian election, most of this stuff is either White House, Washington, D.C. related or Manosphere. Because I do, yes, I thought I should let you know. Yeah, I do a Manosphere show, which will probably be sometime tomorrow afternoon, since I'm going to be home doing my laundry anyway. And that one's going to be a meme show. I'm probably will get around to doing another Manosphere show, but keep in mind, I go back out to camp Wednesday, so we'll see how it goes. But without any further ado, let's just get into the actual topics for tonight. All right, and we will start out with Mark Carney. Oops, hold on a second here. Mark Carney calling a federal election. Okay, well, the polls clearly indicate that that Mark Carney has somehow managed to pull ahead here, and is actually, because of the way Canada is structured, it's like you have the Laurentian Basin and you know how the Laurentian Basin votes is usually the Laurentian Basin is that part of Canada between Quebec City and Windsor. There's almost like a straight line that you can draw right through all of those cities. They all kind of line up, and you know that particular part and the Atlantic provinces. I can't fucking believe they actually went. The Atlantic provinces have all fully flipped. Now I've covered this on previous shows of the Red Pill Nation. It's not that the Conservatives have lost all that much support. They're still in the high 30s. What's happened is that traditional NDP and Bloc Québécois voters have all suddenly, well, because it's not Justin Trudeau anymore, it's Mark Carney. They've all flooded over to Mark Carney, in a large part because of and of course the Canadian media is playing their part too. They're just pumping up the anti-Trump rhetoric like there's no tomorrow, and all of the a lot of the people from the NDP and the Bloc Québécois have flocked over to support the Liberals. So now the Liberals at points have even been leading. It went down exactly how I figured it was going to go down. They were going to call it almost. They were going to try to call it almost as soon as they possibly could after they switched over, before people had a chance to get familiar with the guy. It was there's just a lot of things about Mark Carney that 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 don't add up and don't make a lot of sense. For instance, it was Mark Carney who advised Justin Trudeau to on how to, for I believe this is the case. I believe it was Mark Carney who advised Justin Trudeau on how to crack down on the trucker convoy protest back in 2021. It was also keep in mind Mark Carney was also a regular. In fact, there's interviews with him with Rebel News going in and out of the WEF compound in the Davos, Switzerland. So, yeah, he is a full-fledged globalist. For whatever reason, and I think I may know why Donald Trump has done this, because I'm starting to find out some stuff about Trump over the past few weeks. And while it's it's kind of tarnished him a little bit with me. It's sort of like, and I'm like, at the same time, I start thinking about the types of individuals that he had to deal with in New York, and it actually makes a whole lot of sense why he's doing what he's doing. The whole situation with Donald Trump is on the record saying that he would prefer Carney over Pierre Poilievre. Carney, and the only feasible reason that would be the case is because Donald Trump knows that if he has Pierre Poilievre, although Pierre Poilievre aligns with him a lot more politically, Donald Trump can definitely throw his weight around, because it's like Mark Carney is a bit of a jellyfish, right? Like he didn't have to go through the crucible, like even the way Justin Trudeau had to, in order to become the head of the Liberal Party. Like basically he was selected as the prime minister. He's not elected as the prime minister. I'm somewhat, to say that I'm a little bit concerned is an understatement. I mean, at some point in the next couple of months, just like how I keep forgetting to do a P. Diddy episode, we're going to have
I've been waiting for that P. Diddy episode. Come on.
Yeah, we'll have to do that P. Diddy episode here at some point. Just like that P. Diddy episode, we're gonna have to do, because I live in Alberta.
You know how many bottles of baby oil I have bought to be able to be prepared for the
no, we have to get some Orange Man hand balm first, by the way. So the whole thing with hold on a second, I completely lost my train of thought. The whole thing with this is also with Alberta is the fact that where the hell is, oh shit, it's not on here. Oh wait, nope, there it is. Okay. The whole thing with yes, that red ballot thing is going to be the photo for the rest of this topic, by the way. Just an FYI. The whole thing with this is that, like, if Carney wins, the chances of, I mean, it's already like the percentage, and there's people that actually like there's actually a university academic who actually tried to argue with me on Twitter. It's like, oh, I only know a couple people in Alberta that are actually serious about leaving. It's like, yeah, dude, like, get out of the fucking city. Like, get out of Calgary, get out of Edmonton, start talking to the people who live in the countryside, right? Like, they're not very keen on Ottawa at all. For those of you who don't live in Canada and are listening to this, I don't know if it's going to be one of the two current listeners that we have. The Alberta makes the bulk of these things called equalization payments. And again, I didn't actually have a problem with that system per se, because the idea behind it, which was brought in by Pierre Trudeau, who's like Justin Trudeau's dad, is that the way it worked is that, it was very socialism bad. It's like, the way it was set up is that so that the prices were more or less consistent. Like a tank of gas in Halifax was more or less going to cost the same amount as the tank of gas in Victoria, BC. A dozen eggs is going to be more or less the same consistent price, give or take about 10 to 15 to 20% nationally. That's why they brought this equalization thing in. Yes, it is a form of socialism. Yes, there's a lot of issues with socialism. But again, I really didn't matter because, again, the prices stayed consistent. And it worked. And it especially worked really well when Alberta had money to spend. When I first moved to Alberta back in 2005, 2006, the economy here was just super heated. But ever since the Liberals have been in power, they have specifically done everything humanly possible to suppress the Alberta economy and not make it too rich. And specifically, he's definitely messed with the energy sector here. Like, the energy sector here would like him to just go away. I will give Trudeau at least some credit. He wanted to pull the same crap in Canada that the governments in Germany, in Belgium, and the Netherlands pulled with their farmers and put that restriction on fertilizer. But if he had done that in Canada, he's already pissed off the energy sector in Canada, and the other big business in Alberta is farming. Like, that would have been it. Like, Alberta would have been ready to go. If Carney is reelected, if Carney wins anything other than a conservative majority at this point, and Alberta is going to leave, probably. I don't think they will try to become their own country. I think what they'll probably try to do is petition the U.S. That's probably the reason why Trump wants Carney in, would prefer Carney as opposed to Poilievre, because Poilievre is actually based out of Calgary, right? And, Poilievre, although he aligns closer to Trump politically, Poilievre also has a backbone. And Poilievre would definitely push back against Trump, whereas Carney would just cave in like a little fucking simp. So, this election is going to be critical. If Carney wins, the United States is potentially going to get a lot bigger. I'm not going to go into all the details, but how the country is going to go over the next 3 or 4 years is going to greatly depend on what way Alberta decides to go at this point. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yeah. So, Carney. Well, last name like that, the first thing I think of is this guy just a meat eater, or is he from the circus?
Circus would be a good selection.
All right, I hit. Since I've been doing less and less radio and podcast, I've sort of been trying to work on my entertainment side of my media. And, getting ready to do this movie and having to learn a British accent, which is going badly, by the way, learning a British accent. I've been trying to do a little comedy, a little bit of stand-up here and there, So, I don't have much to add to this, so I was just like, trying to be quick on my feet there. But I don't know. Gasoline, where I am in Northern California, gasoline is $5 a gallon now. I never thought I'd see the day. You know what? When I was a kid, you know, gasoline was 80, 85 cents, 90 cents a gallon. That's when I was a kid. That was 30 years ago. Maybe about 30, 32, 33 years ago. So it's just like I never thought I'd see the day where um, gasoline would cost more than a jug of freaking milk. Milk is $3.29 a gallon here. Well, I'm $3.50 depending on the brand. So we've got $5 a freaking gallon. Um, we as Americans, we gotta put a stranglehold on you Canadians and make gasoline a little cheaper, because at this point it's about to get ready to be like, seriously, ass, gas, or grass. Okay, like seriously, people are gonna be people are gonna be like they're gonna be giving fellatio in the back alley for a couple of gallons of gas here soon. I mean, it's insane. But yeah, I don't know. You want to bring up these Canadian topics? Okay, Americans. Well, okay. When's the last time a Canadian has assassinated one of their politicians? Has it ever happened? Well,
Somebody tried doing it one time to Trudeau. He never got the person didn't get no, just Pierre Trudeau, not Justin Trudeau.
okay. Because I was going to say, because we as Americans, we don't follow Canadian politics. We don't have respect for any country that does not have where their citizens aren't armed. We look at you as a lost sort of ghost state. If you're not armed as citizens, you're not a real country to us, basically. So, I mean, if you have lost the idea, if you've lost the option of assassination on your politicians, you are a decayed, cancerous state to us. So that's why, at the core, I believe that's why we Americans don't follow anybody else's politics. There's not too many countries out there where the citizens are armed. Because we as Americans, we feel as though that even if our politics go super bad, there's going to be some super patriotic guy who's going to be looked at as a nutbag. But there's going to be some super patriotic guy that's going to shoot the next Hitler. So that sort of sits in the back of our minds as well. And that's why the constant attempts to take our guns, take our guns, take our guns, take our guns. You Canadians just gave up your damn guns. So you're kind of like, we have a policy, leave no soldier behind, but if you lost your weapon, you're no good. We gotta leave you behind. So yeah, you Canadians got a lot to work on over there, huh?
Yeah, we do. I didn't. They literally. you're not gonna believe this. I was like listening at Instagram here. It looks like Marine Le Pen has been sentenced for embezzlement. She was the person. She was the woman that ran against Macron. In the they're basically trying to do the same thing to Marine Le Pen in France that they were trying to do to Trump in the U.S. when Biden was in office. I literally just discovered that about 10 seconds ago. That'll be a topic for 4:34, by the way. Yeah. There's a very real possibility here that Canada, or not Canada, but Alberta will definitely be looking very, very hard at leaving Canada and probably petitioning to join the US. Maybe not necessarily as a state, but definitely at least as a territory.
As a
Um,
protectorate, yes.
as a territory. I don't think Donald Trump will mind. I don't think basically if Alberta, because right now Canada is energy independent, and they're energy independent because of the development that happened in the province I live in about 20 years ago. Like Canada does not have to import anything. In fact, they export a shit ton of oil to the United States. If Alberta leaves and becomes either a either a territory or a full-fledged state, I think probably the people in Alberta would probably only accept statehood. Um, that effectively makes the US fully energy independent, because then they would have access they would have access to the big huge pool of energy that and it would definitely help on the food side as well. uh they would have food, and fuel would become a lot less of a problem if Alberta joins.
If you
That's
could help me with the geography here, is Alberta on the left, center, or right?
left. It's BC, Alberta. BC's on the
So,
west coast. Alberta's the next province over east.
so if okay, so if you if you joined us, could we be connected to Alaska?
No, that would be BC. By the
Okay.
way, and when I do the Alberta, when I get around to doing the Alberta Epps special, if British Columbia were to also become a state, and by the way, the scenario that would happen would be that Alberta would leave, then Saskatchewan would probably jump ship, which would leave British Columbia geographically isolated. Now, it's going to cause one of two things. Either A, BC just drifts off and joins up with the US on its own, or B, China, who is just practically creaming themselves trying to get some kind of a foothold in North America, would move into British Columbia because they would, and the United States would be forced to intervene in British Columbia to prevent the Chinese from getting a foothold. And I have explained to a lot of people, because some people just seem to be thinking that China is like this people's paradise, and it's not. It's definitely not. The if you have to pick between the United States, there's a lot of things wrong with China, not just the government there. If you have to pick between the United States becoming partners with getting closer to the United States or having China move in, I would pick the United States in a cold second. And with that, I think we're probably done in this particular topic. So let's move on to the next one here. The next one is okay. This is a rather personal one. Hold on a second here. Let me just timestamp this. Okay. This one is more of a personal one. I don't know how many individuals in North America or the world even know about this guy. This guy is one of the old guard of the Manosphere. Like this guy goes with this guy and Warren Farrell and Paul Elam and Tom Golden and a few other. This was and Tom Likas. these were the guys. These were the original Manosphere. This was one of the original Manosphere guys. In fact, at one point in time, probably up until the early 2000s, Justin Sterling and Tom Likas were probably the two most controversial people in the from what it wasn't even called the Manosphere back then. Justin Sterling had this men's weekend event, and I did do the men's weekend in August of 97. Now, for me, what I can say about this without getting too many details as to what exactly happened, because I had to sign a confidentiality agreement and so on, was that I got a lot of my questions answered. It was a grueling experience. It was a very intense experience. I freed myself from a huge amount of the toxicity that I had tied in with my family at that weekend. At some point, maybe I will go and do it again. He was at that weekend. I've actually spoken to the guy a couple of times. He was one of him and Tom Likas and a couple of other individuals. These were the original Manosphere guys. These were the guys that came up and around after the Lorena Bobbitt incident. If the problem with Sterling, and this is something that has been pointed out, and I have noticed with a couple of indicators, is that a lot of the men who do this weekend don't really want to, while they're a lot of the guys who did this weekend, the men's weekend, were men that were already in relationships, hence the Sterling Institute of Relationships. And they were doing this to save their marriages. And that ended up obviously being the center focus of the men in the groups that spread out all over North America around the Sterling Institute. So there was a lot of discussion around, and this is the big issue with the Manosphere right now. There's a lot of discussion around child custody and divorce laws and that type of thing. There's a little bit about PUA. There was no discussion about quote unquote red pill because for one, the concept of the red pill, like the Matrix movie, which is the movie that popularized the red pill as a metaphor, wasn't even out yet when I did the men's weekend. And but there was a very profound red pill experience that came out of that weekend for me, and it was transformative. I won't lie. It was an incredibly transformative, powerful event. It wasn't on the whole, I'm going to say that it wasn't as transformative as the 12 steps of NA and AA and EA were for me on the whole. But it was probably it was the single biggest revelatory event about who I was and what I was and where I wanted to go and all of that. So a lot of my questions about that sort of thing got answered at this weekend. There's a lot of women who there was also a women's weekend. There's a lot of individuals who are probably not dead, not in jail, not divorced, not getting raped in the court, not getting ripped apart in the courts, because of Justin Sterling. And yeah, there's a lot of former Sterling guys that are in the Manosphere now, or involved in the Manosphere. The big issue with this is the way that the Sterling Institute of Relationships was set up. It was not set up to be an activist type of a group. It was set up to be a support network for men having to deal with toxic relationships with women. And it didn't want to address the issues that, say, men's rights wanted to address. It definitely wasn't it definitely wasn't PUA. And because these guys were in relationships, it definitely wasn't MGTOW. So, I mean, but it had its corner. At one point, it was the single largest faction in the Manosphere. It kind of faded off into the background because it kind of almost, and this is gonna sound kind of weird, but this was sort of like the unofficial mentality of the guys who did the men's weekend, and it's very similar to Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. The first rule about the men's weekend is you don't talk about the men's weekend. Now, I've alleged about it on a couple of occasions. I would strongly encourage any man out there to look at doing the Sterling Men's Weekend. You have to go in with if you're going to do it, you have to go in with a clear head, and you have to know what your purpose is for being there. Because if you're just there, like, without some definitive goals or some definitive answers, I mean, this particular weekend is very difficult because you can't logic your way through it. Like, a lot of it is just gut level, raw emotional stuff. And I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure V maybe won't have all that much to say about this, but yes,
I do.
Well, let me just finish, and then I'll let you have a shot at this. There was all races, all classes, celebrities, whatever. There's a lot of people who have done this weekend that you probably have never met and never will meet. Yes, Justin Sterling. I will also say this about me personally around this men's weekend. I can draw a clear line between me coming into the fellowships of the 12 steps, then me doing the Sterling Men's Weekend, then me discovering the Manosphere, then me taking the red pill. I took my red pill before I even got to doing my men's weekend. And me discovering the Manosphere, and then me discovering MGTOW, and then me actually doing this podcast. There is a clear line there. That line, if I had not done this weekend, we would not actually be talking to each other right now. And I'm not sure. I don't even know what kind of a caliber of life I would have for myself if I hadn't done the weekend. And that's just me. So yeah, Justin Sterling, rest in peace. And I'm standing up right now and I'm giving you a salute. And I'm going to turn it over to V. So V, you're up.
Okay, so let me now. Okay, so I'm not MGTOW. Okay, so I'm the PUA on the show. I love women. I love women. I love to be on the show.
I like
I love
women too.
explaining.
I like women too, but it's like the juice ain't worth the squeeze in most cases. Continue.
Oh, okay, well, hold on. But so, as a PUA, I love explaining the psychology of women because it's a fun thing to do because with as many of these. Oh, okay. I don't even know where to start with this. Okay, so for example, I last night I was having a discussion with the Jackal, right? And we were just talking, and the subject of I don't know sex came up, and I told him all about my sexual experiences. Like, I've there is such thing as having too much sex, uh, and I was told him of my history. I was a sex addict when I was 17. Okay, like I, I know it doesn't say much because teen boys are horny, but I had one of those girls that would, skip from school to school to school because she was such a slut and kept getting pregnant. And so when she got to my school, I locked her down. There's just nobody touching her but me. And I can tell you, I several times a day, every day for like a year and a half. Like it was like that. Uh, the school, like at school, she would talk about some stuff. I would talk about some stuff with my friends, and it became like I, I had like my own school club, basically, of where we were just talking about our sexual escapades. Where we did it, how we did it, and that sort of stuff. I had a girl in geometry class who would just tap my shoulder and just ask about my sexual experience the day before, and she would just like she gets so excited, and I'm telling you, she would rip herself right there in class. So I mean, it's like I've been flooded and flooded and flooded with what people would consider as sluts. I've had very few good girls, very few. So really, it's a sad story. But when, they're all crazy. They're all uniquely crazy. Each woman is uniquely crazy. However, because of society and the way things are, there are certain things that trigger them to make them all act certain ways given certain stimuli. And that's just something I like to explain on a individual basis to basis, talking about females. Um, but let me say, this men's weekend thing, I'm going to be sophomorish, and I'm going to troll you here for a minute. It sounds a little sus. It sounds just maybe there's a better way we could describe it this weekend. It sounds sus. I'm just expecting there to be the YMCA song afterwards. But no, but on a more serious note, though, and I know I have been very homophobic on the show. I would like to place a disclaimer right here. I'm not homophobic. So my best friends are gay. I love them dearly, just not in that way. But Tom Likas, oh my god, yeah. So my significant other, I used to torture the hell out of her by playing Tom Likas out loud while I would play some, I don't know, some RPG video game. And I just play Tom Likas out loud just the fuming and the raging in the background was always hilarious. Do you believe this?
Oh, Tom Likas was again, I thought Tom Likas was a bit of an egotistical prick, but I mean he said stuff and he had guests on his show and he said stuff that you see guys like Andrew Tate and Rollo Tomasi and the big names in the manosphere, they will repeat a lot of like even Roosh V, like even a lot of the stuff that Roosh V said. You know, a lot of that stuff can be traced back to Tom Likas, and a lot
Well,
of it can
yeah. I
also
mean,
be traced
Tom,
back to Justin
egotistical.
Sterling.
Well, I mean, egotistical. The guy's like, I've got $6 million, my own house, my own cars. What do I need you for? Yeah, you got pretty small, but I can have two or three of you. And no, we're not having kids. If I ever have a kid, ever just show up to my door and knock at the door, I'm just gonna just close the door in his face. I don't want any kids. I'm not taking care of yours. I was like, go, Tom, go. Tom Likas. I
Uh,
mean, he just laid it down. That was like literally, that's literally like the most, the thing that sticks out in my head the most. That rant I did almost word for word.
oh yeah, Tom Likas again, right? The parallels between Andrew Tate and Tom Likas are just absolutely staggering. Like, I mean, they're not exactly fun. They're not exactly clone copies of each other, obviously. But I mean, I see when I listen to a lot of I don't listen to Andrew Tate a lot. But when I watch how Andrew Tate acts, look at the way how Andrew Tate shows off and how Andrew Tate will not fucking hesitate to drop an opinion about on literally anything. It's like that was what fucking Tom Likas was 20 years ago, or
And let
actually
me ask
even
you.
10 years ago.
Let me ask you. I joke about the homosexual implications of men's weekends, but you can't homogenize everything. There's always going to be
Well, I
one or
mean,
two individuals. There's with a different agenda. Were there any men picking up men?
no, 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 that is not what it's about at
I
all.
know, but
You
like I
know, I
said,
mean,
you have
I do
individuals.
have to point something out though about the
Uh,
Sterling Men's Weekend.
uh,
In the eyes of Justin Sterling, gay men were still men, right? They still had the same biological
of
drives
course.
and heart and biological software that other men they had. They were just aligned differently than heterosexual men. So yeah, there were gay men at that did the Sterling Men's Weekend.
Da,
You
da,
know,
da, 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 da,
but I
da,
mean, it wasn't it
da,
that doesn't make it homoerotic or anything. I mean, I have to address this quite frequently.
Okay, okay.
You know, I mean, it's like the whole situation with a lot of men who are not in the manosphere and cannot wrap their minds around a couple, for instance, with MGTOW, for instance, that there's a lot of men that just don't want to admit a fundamental truth, which is that basically any interaction, and I mean, I'll just say it, any interaction that you have with a woman in this current society, it is a gynocentric order right now. That woman can come back with a metaphorical gun even decades later and turn your life upside down.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like, I mean, if you're not comfortable accepting that as an actual reality, like you're going to have a very, like, I mean, you're obviously going to have a very hard time conceiving of the fact. And then when we get into the next topic, which is that television series that by the BBC, like they're having a very hard time wrapping their heads and their minds around what is actually going on with men right now.
Well, and so you said there were gay men at that event. Were any of them just like? Yeah, I dated women, and yeah, I got sick of it. They turned me gay.
No,
I
there
like
wasn't
females
any
now.
discussion. No, I can tell you that what was and wasn't going on there. You first of all, you were way too busy at that event to do anything to even be thinking about like sleeping with anybody when you were
No, no,
doing.
no, no, no. But what I'm saying is when these men are talking about their experiences and things like that. I mean, isn't that one of them? Just like I into women, now I'm into men. Women are so insane. It turned
Nothing.
me gay.
There is some discussion about sexuality there. I will confirm that but that the discussion that there is around sexuality doesn't get into didn't at least yeah at the didn't get into personal preferences.
Okay.
It was about for when it came to sexuality, it was about becoming comfortable with who you are
Uh.
and what your relationship was with a lot of these men who were married with the woman in their lives and having boundaries and being solid.
Okay. All
You
right.
know, it wasn't this sex is was part of it, but it wasn't the only part.
Well, I just people are just like, oh, you're born gay or no, it's a choice. But what about those people who have been abused so much by women, just flat out abused, to where it's just like, okay, I'm just gonna try the other side now.
That actually doesn't happen. I mean, it's looking pretty much
Wow.
more and more like you're born that way, although it's not the science isn't conclusive on this. I have yet to meet. And I've been around for a while now. I've yet to meet a guy who just like wasn't having any. In fact, have you seen a lot of gay guys? They're better looking than most men.
Yeah, of course.
You know, like these are guys. Most a lot of gay guys would have zero problem picking up a woman
Oh
just
yeah.
on looks alone. It's I mean, even like I mean, I don't want to because I didn't see the movie Bros. I mean, like there was a lot of very attractive men in that movie, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's like, like they were physically attractive men. These were men that if they walked into a straight nightclub, they would have no problem picking up another woman,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but yeah, so Justin Sterling, and we scared off. We were up to a whole four at one point. We're down to one. I'd like to thank the one person who's hanging in there. Yes, I will make a point of setting these up ahead of time from now on, so that I'm not doing these on the fly. Uh, but yeah, so Justin Sterling, for the individuals that you influenced in the manosphere that are still around today, for the men and their kids and the wives that are alive, not in jail, not suffering painfully through the court system, not in and not had didn't commit suicide, and all of the people that have been either directly or indirectly influenced by Justin, your impact will not be forgotten. Like yeah, you and like I say, you, Tom Likas, Tom Golden, to a lesser extent, I can't remember. I know his last name is Elam. Tommy, Mike, Paul Elam, like a few of those guys that were around back in the actually, no, Barbarossa wasn't even one of the originals. But yeah, like he was one of the guys that was part of the Manosphere when it was just some fringe little thing, and they were making TV series about guys jump dancing around on a fire and beating on a drum, right? Like that's the era that we're talking about when we're talking about the Manosphere from the 90s. And with that, we're going to move on to the next topic. And oh boy, do we have an interesting topic for the next topic. Okay, I am going to just say it right now. It is very, very clear when you look at the internet laws that were set up and the AstroTurf campaign over that one woman, which enabled this internet law to come into Britain. The way, and it, by the way, it was the British government that was the big primary push behind Andrew Tate getting arrested in Romania. He's still, on paper anyway, has still got an extradition. There's still an extradition issue between Romania and the British government um, over those charges, which of course fell apart. But it is very, very clear that there is a faction inside the British government that is misandric as hell, that hates men, is getting incredibly afraid of the Manosphere to a big, big degree. And, the BBC and and of course Netflix went along with this. I have to also point out here, Netflix also quite happily put cuties on the air, so that should be duly pointed out. Um, the issue with this particular, when I first found out about this, because this really this really hit the Manosphere quite heavily. About a week, just a little under a week ago, people started doing reviews of this movie. This television series is based roughly on, and I will point this out, that there was racial tones to this as well, because it was an immigrant that stabbed a teenage girl in Britain who died. She was a school-age girl who died. That is what it is based on. What they did, and that guy in that, I can't remember specifically who it was that did it, but he was not a teenager. He was a teenager, but he was like 18, 19 when he did this to this 13, 14-year-old girl. There were severe race overtones because the guy who did it was black and an immigrant, and I think he was even an illegal immigrant. And there was a lot of tones. So what happened is that and I think this was done on purpose, is that the BBC did this 4-part series where they race swapped the black, I won't just say label, they race swapped the immigrant for a younger white teenage boy, and basically did a whole series where, this teenage boy was inspired by the Manosphere, and in his rage, and not at his mom, or not at his family, not at his society, but because of what his father was doing, took it out, stabbed and murdered a 13-year-old girl. They used all of the talking points. They like all of the bad. This is what I was told. All of the bad guys in this movie are white and male. All of the people who are doing the lecturing and the finger wagging are white and female. And a reason why I have to bring up race here is because there was a big this is something that got noticed almost immediately. When guys in the Manosphere started talking about this, they also tried and didn't really. They also tried to say that this particular television series had great acclaim and it had 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm also going to point out to you that Bros also had an exceedingly high rating on Rotten Tomatoes too. They tried to say it was 100%, but again, right? When I went over and checked the Rotten Tomatoes score on this, the 100% score, which was not a 100% score, it was the 97, was on the critics' side. The viewer side, and I think a lot of people will find this very interesting, the viewer's side, the comment section had been cut off. Yeah, things that make you go, So I had to go over to Metacritic. Metacritic had a much more balanced and proportional response to this. The words, they used all of the buzzwords. They brought up Andrew Tate, although, and they kept saying, oh, well, there's men that this is what they talk about in the Manosphere. And it's like, I have been in the Manosphere I've been in the trenches of the gender war for an extremely long time. Now, there have definitely been some content creators that I think need to go away, but, even and this is something that that V can definitely talk about. You have to when you're a PUA, you have to learn game. Now, I find it very ironic that somehow when men do get involved in PUA and learn game, somehow that's being dishonest and being manipulative. But when women do it, and they do it all the time, it's just sort of expected. Oh, it's just par for the course. That's just women being women, right? And it's like literally a line from the show, right? You got no money, you got no looks, you have to try and trick them. And that's like literally a line and I mean, I have not heard anybody with any amount of respectability in the Manosphere actually say that. The actual PUA term is you got to know what the rules of the game, you got to know what the rules of the mating dance are. And if you know the rules of the mating dance and you know what they're like, you can alter your approach, and you might not necessarily get a tan, so to speak, because I got to point out something, that the PUA section of the Manosphere does not resemble anything that it did 20 years ago. But yeah, there was this. And of course, there was also mention about the red pill. And again, the evolution of the red pill is all like, Barbarossa was talking about this like probably about 6 or 7 years ago. He was noticing about how watered down the red pill had actually become, and he was right. The original version of the red pill is reality as it actually is, regardless of whether your feelings like it or not. That is the reason why when you look at when Neo discovers what happened to him in the Matrix, when Morpheus is showing him that he was basically being used as a battery, it was really shocking and a very hard thing for him to take, because that was like literally Neo's red pill moment. Now, yeah, okay, it was a movie, so it was played up and it was over dramatized, but I mean, yeah, like something that you need to understand when you take the red pill, the red pill is something that, it's if you just take the red pill and it's like ho 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 hum hum hum, then you didn't take the red pill. Like, the red pill is a shocker, right? Like, the red pill can leave you shaken to your core. Like the red pill basically for me forced me to confront a lot of the issues of things that I thought about myself and where I was and what I was doing, and realized where I was failing in a lot of situations. And it doesn't definitely mean that I don't make mistakes, because as I as I found out just a couple of days ago, man, I still can make some major mistakes. Um, the red pill is a very intense experience, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. It could be a very challenging experience. And it's with the thing about the red pill, and this is something that I don't think this, because there was also an article that came out recently about how this woman depilled her son, and it's sort of like the red pill once taken cannot be untaken. So once you know what you know, you cannot unknow it, and you can maybe suppress it. And what's happening is that, I mean,
It can be
this is
smothered by a lot of vagina.
it can be smothered. It can be smothered, but I mean, you can't unknow what you know. And when a lot of and they are really desperate. I suspect that's also one of the reasons why they want to keep this war in Ukraine going, and why they really want to push for a war with Russia. They don't know there is a revolution taking place inside the minds of men and boys, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and whatever. And the powers that be, specifically in Britain, are doing everything they can to suppress the information. The only problem is that once you know, you can't unknow. And they don't know what to do about this. And that's what this series was about. They tried to use all of the big, huge, scary words. And when I went over to Metacritic and I started looking at the comments there, because you cannot I could not, maybe it's working now, but I could not get to the viewer comments on Rotten Tomatoes. By the way, the audience score over at Rotten Tomatoes is definitely lower than the critic score by a considerable margin. It's still decent, but they appear to have done the same thing with Adolescence that they did with the last Star Wars movie. Basically, they just froze the ratings so that they couldn't mass downvote it. But that's not the case over at Metacritic. The word that comes up, and again, my responses are going to be very limited, but I have a pretty good idea, because I have dealt with, in fact, I did a whole takedown of somebody who claimed that they did all this research about the Manosphere. And when I started looking at the content, it's like, where did you do your research again? Because you definitely don't know what you're talking about. The word poorly researched came up quite frequently around this show. And again, right, to get into the nuances of the Manosphere and the various factions and the various people inside it and what they're saying, what it all more or less comes down to is that men are being treated like disposable utilities and potential rapists and potential victimizers, and are being told this in a school system dominated by women and a culture that is very PC and very NPC, and being told that they're bad people. And it's like, and they're trying, especially over in Britain, they're doing everything they can to try and suppress the alternatives, and which is only going to make it that much worse when it explodes, because this isn't just about sex. This is about men needing to move forward in their lives, not just with a woman, but in general. And they're being held back just because of how they were born just because they were born male. And they're being treated very poorly in a lot of cases. And at the same time, they're being lied to and saying that they have all the advantages in the world, and they don't. And yeah, like I said, the best example I've seen of it, although he chose to use a very poor title, the one guy who did do something really interesting about this was a guy by the name of What If Alt History. He called it the incel revolution, which is a very poor choice, which is a very poor title choice. But yeah, there is a growing male crisis, and the opposite sex is not doing anything to address the issue. And governments aren't doing really much to address the issue. And because they're not doing much to address the issue is just going to continue to get worse. And you're going to see more propaganda like this. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Okay, so so the government. Okay, well, who? If I'm not getting laid, do I need to go and start tearing up ballot boxes and voting for Prop B and Prop A and hope I get laid?
No, of course that's got nothing to do with it, obviously, right? I mean, but I do know this because I remember I did do a nightclub run, and I consistently saw this happen. I've talked to even women about this, how they swatted a guy down earlier in the evening, and that same guy would get into a fight later on in the evening. In fact, with Dorman,
Oh yeah,
they will specifically look at guys that get shot down early in the evening, and they will monitor those specific guys because those are the ones that are probably going to get into a fight later on in the evening. And it happened a number of times over the years.
Okay, well, that's fine. I would love to see the day though where I don't know, you have these group of incels form something and then find a way, I guess, through government to get laid. I don't know. I'm not against prostitution, by the way. I'm not against sex workers. I'm not against, if you're an adult.
Oh, I'm not against porn or sex. I'm not even against Instagram or OnlyFans, right? Those are serving as a very, very, actually, I mean, at least from my perspective, porn and OnlyFans right now are serving as a very, very important release valve at this point with a lot of men.
Yeah, so a guy has to get theirs, any way they can get it. So without, within the realm of consent. So, I mean, but it would really tickle me pink if there was some form of government something that required men to get laid. But anyhow,
here's the thing: all of the options for men have been stigmatized. No matter what you do, it's wrong. And when you're in that type of a situation,
porn,
yeah, it's all wrong. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. Everything you do is wrong. And when you have a situation like that, right? Like you get people like me who just go, you know what? I'm just going to do whatever the hell I fucking want. I'm just going to go I'm just going to do whatever the hell. I'm just going to go my own way and do whatever the hell I want, right? But there's the information. Well, no.
all the options are wrong, but the only thing that is right is actual vaginal penetration. But that is really your last option because there's no girl that wants you. So then at that point, you're just gonna take it. Some
Well,
guys,
no, you have to take that energy and you have to redirect it somehow. And
of
if you
course,
don't know how
I'm not
to do
disagreeing with that. I'm
that,
just saying what happens.
yeah, if you don't do that, what ends up happening is that energy is going to manifest itself. If you don't know how to do it in a healthy way, that energy is going to manifest itself in could potentially manifest itself in some very dark ways. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
I will say one thing about the movie about this TV series. It does address that issue. The only problem is it doesn't address the root cause.
yeah. Well, you have people like like Ed Gain. You know, a little boy's best friend was always his mother. He starts butchering up females. Start wearing women's body parts and skin. Yeah, I mean, listen. I mean, I'm not gonna say all incels are powder kegs, but all incels are powder kegs. Um, whatever comes out of it is it's just what comes out of it. And whose fault is it? I can't. I'm not really gonna. That's just too long a road to go down for this one particular topic. But I do want to switch gears on this topic, though. Uh, I don't think there's anything wrong with showing white men as being the bad guys in a movie or series or
Well,
whatever.
well, I mean, I mean, I got to point out, man, like the biggest single up until a few years, up until whatever came along, the biggest single content creator in the Manosphere was a black guy, Kevin Samuels.
Okay,
He was far and away the biggest Manosphere content creator
he
for.
was brilliant. He was right on point. Even anybody can get it. Even a guy from the ghetto is not going to listen to Tom Likas, but everybody's going to listen to someone like Samuel. That guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, just like just there's a lot of guys that will listen to Myron Gaines and Fresh and Fit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's not I mean, although there's a lot of overlap between Fresh and Fit and whatever, right? I mean, right? Like it's to absolutely nobody's surprise, there is a much bigger black audience for Fresh and Fit, and we all know why that is, right?
Uh huh.
I would keep in mind,
Well,
Fresh and Fit doesn't dress women down the way Andrew Tate and not Andrew Tate, Andrew Smith or whatever the name is, Andrew Wilson does on whatever. Like Andrew Wilson on whatever, like literally will just absolutely like not physically body slam women, but will basically he'll go hard in the paint. He'll just like he'll hip check them right into the boards, like metaphorically speaking. Which I mean, you'll see that on Fresh and Fit too. But the Myron Gaines has got a little bit more savvy about it.
yeah. Well, okay. Well, let me finish my point. Let me get to what I was going to say. So I really, I'm really disappointed. I don't really want to. It's not the. I mean, I don't want to hear it. But if it's being thought, then of course it needs to be expressed. But I don't know why people are so bent out of shape with showing white guys as the bad guys and stuff. It's like, it was okay.
Well, I mean,
It's okay.
there were
Well, hold
bad
on, hold
white
on.
guys. Well, okay, I'll
Well,
let you
well,
finish.
hold on. It's okay. It's okay to show the black guy doing this, doing that. It's okay to show the black guy being a pimp. It's okay showing the black guy being a crack dealer. It's okay. That's just yes, that's what it has to be. That's the standard. You show the white guy being a crack dealer, or you show the white guy being a rapist. And it's like, oh, it's just cracking down on white people. Oh, well, is everybody supposed to be cracked down on but white people? I don't get it. I mean, the establishment, when you want to talk about the great evils of society, let's be real about it. And and luckily, I kind of think it's sort of a diversion as well, because with the showing, the white guy being the crack dealer, or showing the white guy being whoever, I think it's sort of a playoff, because when you think about the great evils of society, you know, a black guy or a Mexican guy may be able to steal your car, but at the end of the day, it's the white guy who's controlling your insurance, controlling your premiums, controlling the price on your next vehicle. Okay, uh, a black guy or a Mexican guy may be able to steal your wallet, but guess who is stealing your 401k? That's the white guy. So for whatever you can, you know, there's no black man, no Mexican man controlling the price of oil, controlling the price of gasoline, controlling the price of food, controlling the price of medicine.
Yeah, I got something to say about that. You're talking about a very slim, small percentage of white men that are doing that.
I don't care if they're all white. I don't care if it's just one white guy.
Yeah, there's like you're talking about 1/10, one twentieth of 1% of all white men.
But it could be one white guy out of 8 billion. It's still a white guy that's doing it. Okay.
Okay,
So,
well,
but it's sort of
we
like CRT. Hold on. It's sort of like with the CRT, the critical race theory. People were like, "Oh, that's just to make white people look evil. That's the way make white people look evil." No, it's not. It really isn't. What it is to because it's getting so hard to hide these things that are being done behind the scenes. It's getting because everybody's got internet, everybody's researching. It's getting so hard to hide the facts. Okay, it's not like back in the day where you're fed with a newspaper. So it's just CRT. People understand this. It's not about making white people look evil. It's about discovering that white people, the controlling white people, I'm not saying white people as a whole race, but the controlling white people are are evil, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you need to find a way to live with it.
Oh, well,
That's
then,
what CRT is
okay, all
about.
right. Are you done?
So yeah, so my point is, people need to. I don't know who's focusing on the fact that some white guy is playing a villain in a TV show. Why is that such the major kick?
Well, it's
And
because
would they be happier if it was a black person or a Mexican person? And why is that? That's my point.
all right. I'm all right. I got more than a few responses to that, and we're not going to get into a fucking race debate over this. The number of classical cinematic villains throughout history that were white men is pretty significant. The notion that guys like Rearson and Eamon and Henrik and the white guys that come on the show are all somehow magically benefiting because there's some white guy setting the price of gas is pretty disingenuous.
Well, as a matter of fact, there is no because, and the reason why the reason why they're doing this with the critical race theory and stuff like that is to have us at each other's throat. The only color that matters right now is green,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
that's the
it's like
establishment.
I mean,
And if you're a
there,
poor white person, you might as well be a nigga. Okay,
yeah.
that's how they look
So
at
I
it.
mean, and also Africa has more or less had control of its own government destiny for going on close to 60, 70 years now. Like it's a couple almost a couple of generations. The level of corruption that exists in those countries, and I know because I think there's a lot of people I work with that are immigrants from Africa that I work
Colonialism
with.
screwed
Yeah, that was
That
60 years. That was 60 years ago, right?
the effects of colonialism can last. Who knows how long it can
That was
last? It's still
60.
going on here.
That was 60 years ago.
Yeah,
You know, they've had
last generations.
they've had opportunities. Like, I mean, there have been some very progressive
You
leaders
need
in
to study
Africa.
colonialism a lot more, my friend. Its effects are supposed to last generate. It's supposed to be a permanent destruction, but it will last generations. That's the whole
Yeah,
point.
okay. Well, I mean, here's the thing, and this is something that I have to tell the natives that start playing this card with me. It's like, yeah, it's like you choose to be a victim. You know, you could choose to stop being a victim at any fucking point.
Hmm.
You
But at
know.
no point can you ever change your history.
Yeah, well, I wasn't around for that. Sorry. I had that.
Mm.
I wasn't there. You
Yeah,
know,
you weren't
hey,
around for your
yeah,
people's genocide either.
I wasn't there. None of the current people that
You weren't there.
none of the current whites that are currently around participated in that event. There isn't a single white person living in the United States right now that ever owned that's alive that ever owned a slave. Even the
Well, let me ask you something though.
Even the Jim Crow people, like those people are like either old or fucking dead. Like,
Let me ask you something though. A hypothetical situation. If I if I were to, okay, me as a black man, let's say I had 10 white people slaving for me, and through what the money that they earned me.
oh,
Well,
how about the Moors raiding
no.
the
Let me
coast of
finish. Let me
of
finish.
southern Europe? That there was a lot
Let
of that going on at
let
one
me
point.
finish.
Remember?
Hold on. Let me finish. The hypothetical situation. So the money that they earned me, I buy a Bentley, smooth, freaking beautiful, perfect $1 million car. I get old, I die, I pass the keys on to my son. He gets old, he dies. He passes the keys on to his son for that car. But along the car, this time the knowledge of where that car came from is also given to him. Do you think he should probably give that car back?
Oh, it wasn't his. It was never. Again, right? He inherited that car. It
Uh-huh.
was he. It wasn't the he wasn't the one who went out and exploited people to get it.
But having the knowledge of where it came from
You're
along the
not
vehicle.
entitled to someone else's property. Okay, it's like, yeah, it would be up to the individual, but
Hmm.
yeah, like,
Well,
you know
usually
what
the sons of the
they
father inherit by the son.
yeah, well, in Western society, it's like, yeah, those people are dead. The slave owners are all dead.
Mm.
Okay, like, they're dead. Sorry, they are, and trying to make people feel guilty for
Well, I mean,
something
just
that they
benefiting from a
didn't
criminal enterprise and then
participate
going on with
in.
your life, that's okay.
Yeah,
That's morally right.
yeah, oh, yeah, they didn't participate in that. Okay, they didn't participate in that system.
So every child of every cartel lord should just enjoy his money and life.
Again, he didn't participate in
Okay,
it.
okay, I got you. All right,
Okay, did he
all right.
actually smuggle the drugs?
Oh,
On a
all right.
scale of yes or no, did he actually participate in the drug culture? Did that
Who
individual
cares?
actually
It's about
own the
what's right and wrong.
slaves? Yeah, you're not entitled to somebody else's property either. Anyway, yeah, we're kind of really getting off. We're kind of going off the tracks here.
So if you watch someone get raped, you witnessed it, yeah, but you had nothing to do with it, though, right? So just no moral responsibility for that, right?
That's a false equivalency.
Oh, come on.
That's a false equivalency. He didn't participate in the rape. And by the way, actually, that type of analogy, if he stood there and did nothing, he is an accomplice after the fact. But unfortunately, that he couldn't, that the individual in that situation, the individual who's like 3 generations removed, that can't even be an accomplice after the fact because he didn't actually see it happen. He wasn't there.
Well, it's not necessarily a false equivalency, but it's just a gauging of your moral standings.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're talking about that happening now, an individual who sits back and does nothing is an accomplice after the fact. The only thing is that's happening right now, right?
Right.
Like the individual who didn't participate and who wasn't even alive when it happened. That's a false equivalency. But anyway, we're kind of really getting off the track. We're getting off the track here. We are, right?
Yeah.
This isn't necessary. This was something that got brought up. Again, I could also list off the number of villains in cinematic history that were white and male, and there's a lot of them. But anyway, let's just get on with the next topic here. Okay, now let's see. Okay, now we're into the politics section. This is going to be really interesting because they're so this they're obviously looking at this very closely. What ended up happening is that Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, and a few prominent members of Trump's cabinet were on a Signal chat. There was no information leaked that was going to jeopardize any U.S. interest. But I mean, what happened was, and I almost thought about adding this in, and I realized that, it was going to be included with Signalgate anyway, was that there's a situation going on in, I think it's, it's Yemen and Somalia, where you have pirates that have been hitting shipping that's been going up the Red Sea and going into the Suez Canal. The Europeans tried to do something militarily about it, but weren't able to, so the Americans had to step in and intervene. Pete Hegseth was kind of griping about this, but what ended up happening is that there was a reporter from that quote unquote got accidentally added to the conversation. Now, the way when they started backtracking how it could have happened, it looks like this person may have, and it hasn't been proven conclusively yet, that this person may have been accidentally on purpose added into this. The Democrats are screaming bloody murder, even though, again, it's Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth and all of the people of the cabinet who were on that call have pointed out that there was no classified discussions happening in the Signal conversation. It's also very, very suspicious that they're like, again, I don't listen to a lot of the mainstream media news, but apparently they're like really calling for Pete Hegseth to resign over this, and it's like it's not gonna happen because for a number of reasons, and the first one being that there wasn't anything on that call that, I mean, yeah, okay, Hegseth was I think JD Vance was on that call too. JD Vance was a little bit annoyed because he quote unquote had to go out and bail out the fucking European. These his words, the stinking Europeans again. Because keep in mind, a lot of the import traffic, I'm just talking about regular stuff, food, medicine, raw materials, that sort of thing. Like a lot of that shipping goes through the Suez Canal. So these pirates who had been pretty much operating unmolested in Yemen had been really interfering with the European supply routes, not so much with the U.S. The other part on it was the fact that this person was added in, and when they started backing out the chain of custody as who would have added who to this signal call, it looks like it may have been done on purpose. The Democrats are pushing this like big time, to the point where they're actually attempting to use this as a distraction from some of the other stuff that's been going on. That other stuff, by the way, is going to be topics numbers 5 and 6. But there's definitely, just like, for instance, take Twitter/X. Even like Elon Musk had to go in to Twitter, and he had to just basically gut the place. Even after he gutted the place, there were still elements inside Twitter that he had to purge along the way. To give you an example of what happened on Twitter/X that a lot of people don't know about, is that there, for instance, there was that incident with Nina Blue and human trafficking, and somebody at Twitter running block for her. That woman eventually got fired. Another thing, and this is not something that a lot of people know about, because we were just discussing the Manosphere on the previous topic. One of the things that happened at one point is that there's a function on most social media sites, there's auto spell. Now, before Stefan Molyneux got booted off of Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, the auto spell function, because Molyneux's a very difficult last name to spell, right? And the auto spell function saved a lot of people having to try to remember how to spell Stefan Molyneux's last name. What happened, though, was about a year and a half ago, you couldn't type in Red Pill, you couldn't type in Manosphere, you couldn't type in men's rights, you couldn't type in MGTOW, you couldn't auto spell it, and it wouldn't automatically fill out. That function has returned, but yeah, like, you're still seeing, even up to, say, 6 months to a year ago, you were still seeing people inside Twitter who were still being activists. The same thing is happening here, except Donald Trump hasn't even been in office for like 10 weeks, only 11 weeks in so far. It's probably going to take a year or two for the Trump administration to clear. And by the way, we are going to be talking about CDC and the FDA and whatever. It's going to take a Doge. There's going to be a lot. I suspect that's the reason why Trump brought in Elon Musk, because Elon Musk had to do this sort of thing over at Twitter, which is why he was selected to do Doge. That's just my personal suspicion, is that you have to go in and you have to clear out the bloat. And even after you clear out a lot of the bloat and a lot of the ideology and that sort of thing, you still have to take another year or two, because you don't get everybody. Like, I mean, we were talking about what he did with the hell was it? We were talking. He pulled. Oh, yeah, that's right. He pulled exterminatus, for instance, on USA. Right. He might not have to go full exterminatus again on a section of the government, but there's still a lot of work ahead. And what is going on here is that you're going to get people inside the government, just like you saw some rather convenient leaks happening over at X, to try to embarrass the government and the people running the government into backing off. And you cannot just dismiss the possibility that this thing was signaled, that this person may have been added in intentionally. And again, like you're going to be seeing a lot of this in DC over the next few months. They haven't even gotten over to the Treasury yet. They haven't touched. They haven't even gone near the Fed. I don't even want to know what's going to happen when they get to the Fed and the Pentagon and the armed forces and all of the industry, the military industrial complex. Like somebody, like they're going to have to go in, they're going to have to fix that bloat as well. I mean, yeah, you're going to see a lot of this, and you're going to see a lot of people in government attempting to do things like what you saw with Signalgate. So you can't, this may have just been an honest mistake, but the closer you look at it, the less it looks that way, and the more it looks like this may have been done on purpose. Signal is a relatively safe app, but again, you have, like, I mean, like when I'm sending out large scale messages to people, even when I was using, say, Hotmail, for instance, I always had to make sure I had to check all of the email addresses and not to hit send all by accident, which has been the cause of many people to get fired over the years. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yeah, wrong chat. Yeah, I don't have any opinion on Signal. People have been telling me to get on Signal. This whole Skype breaking down, going away thing is very stressful because, in my opinion, I didn't think I had anything to say about this, but every time I start talking, it just starts building up and cascading.
Yeah, I know. That's what happens with me, too. So.
Okay, so let me say this. Skype has the largest independent media usage. Skype has the largest conservative media usage. Most of our mainstream media is left-wing liberal nonsense. So I think some deals are made because, and some deals are made behind the scene because why isn't Microsoft selling Skype to make some money back? Why why aren't they repurposing it? Why aren't they, you don't just shut it down. Okay? There are tons of people who pay for phone numbers. I had a phone number for freaking 8 years that I paid for with Skype. Okay? It was a good service and very cheap. Cheap alternate to having a real phone, as long as you had internet. Um, so that's the biggest red flag of all, really. Again, the other things I said, red flags, is conservative usage. I understand the video gamers went to Discord. I had a lot of friends I used to game with, and we would ghost for each other using Skype. You know, team match events or independent death matches. We would ghost for each other. Hey, guys around the corner to your right. You know, and these people are not understanding why we're kicking the crap out of them. But yeah, but everybody wants to Discord for that. Okay, fine. Uh, Business meetings. Zoom put on such a freaking show and advertisement campaign that people stopped using Skype and went over to Zoom for their business meetings. I know I had to stop using Skype for my video recordings because the window kept flipping around. You know, the where where
Well, let's talk about the glitching in the recording system that I've been dealing with over the past couple of months too.
it
Continue.
may have be just because support's being pulled. Um, but yeah, and so I had to switch over to Zoom for a little while. Woo! It scared crap out of me there. And so I mean, but it's still a great platform just to have free communication, especially internationally. Internationally, you didn't have a problem as long as it's Skype to Skype. So I think that, and there's some other things. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the show or not, but you guys know that I'm part owner and a director of TLBTalk.com. This is our social network. However, our main benefactor has had a stroke, 2 strokes. He's been in a coma after each one of them. He's currently in a coma. Our net, our network is easily you could say conservative. Unfortunately, I'm a moderate. I would like to be like an anarcho-capitalist moderate. I'm somewhere in the middle. Um, but and so I think there's just all these attacks, and yeah, he probably got hit with the heart attack, freaking ray, or the stroke ray, whatever, directed energy weapons, pulse energy weapons. They kill people like this all the time. The government, CIA, NSA, they kill people like this all the time. So, uh, and this all relates to Trump. I believe it's because we have because of those cultures, the independent media and the independent conservative media being able to talk on a centralized, known place, they seek to disperse everybody because they don't want us supporting culture for Trump. They don't want us supporting political ideologies that support Trump. So they want to destroy as many platforms as humanly possible. They're nuking platforms right now. Uh, don't be surprised if Parlor and all that stuff goes away again. Okay. Um, so yeah, I've got all you guys on Skype, and I'm asking people in the chats, hey, what's the next platform we're gonna use? What's the next platform we're gonna use? Oh, Telegram. Oh, Signal, Discord. And then there's a few others. Oh, Teams, and it's like, and everybody's just dispersing. It's like, can we all just have an official place for us at least? And even within our small group of hosts and podcasters, everybody's going their own way. I don't want 20 apps to keep track of 20 of you. I don't. Signal, I don't know. As a matter of fact, I know this famous fashion designer that lives up in New York. We've been friends for quite some time. She's telling me, Signal is it's the safest platform. It's the safest. It's the best. Even the feds, the government says it's safe. I was like, oh wow, really? Now the feds like Signal. They've got the endorsement of the government. Wow, that's not a big red flag. And it's like, holy crap, man, come on. So, I mean, I hope that we, within the red pill community, and we, and all the other, PSAC, whoever, everybody else, if we can all decide on which platform to centralize ourselves on, because right now we're being decentralized. Okay, it's going to be so hard to keep up with everybody. Where it's going to become really the telephone game. So I'm going to talk to Naroki on whatever platform he decides, and he's going to talk to Naroki to Rierson, and then whatever telegrams, the signal between in teams to get to Dave. It's like, oh, what are we doing? What are we doing right now? So that's actually been stressing me for the past like month because I can't get any of you guys on the same page. So I know that's sort of behind the scenes talk right now. I probably shouldn't do that, but it's it threads in with the topic here. So, Roki,
Yeah. Come on. All right. Yeah, I don't know why it wouldn't unmute for whatever reason. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of stuff like this over the next few months. Yeah, it's again, I'm just gonna reiterate my point here. And I mean, it's a lot of what V is saying is also very relevant. Um they brought Elon Musk in to deal with the bloat in the government because he'd already had to deal with the bloat over at over at Twitter, and he's got some expertise in how to deal with this, and I
wait,
suspect he
hold
could.
on. He's going to be the cleaner. What?
Well, I mean, this, and I'm not saying that he's gonna be the only cleaner, but I mean, he obviously had to do a very systematic purge over at Twitter when he bought it, right? Because like I mean, there was, and we were talking about this when he first got a hold of it. It was like, yeah, they were running into it. They were still running into individuals. They were still running into ideologues that were still working at Twitter even after Elon had fired, what was it, 60, at least 60, 70% of the employees at Twitter. He fired them or laid them off, right? I mean, he was still running into ideologues, right? Um, yeah, so yeah, this is gonna be honestly, I don't think that it's gonna happen in 4 years. Like you're going to need basically same thing with Javier Milei in Argentina or Viktor Orban in Hungary. And you're gonna start seeing, like, I mean, the countries that go around that do the necessary changes that are going to be required to clean up their acts and get rid of all the bloat and get rid of a lot of the corruption are going to be the countries that, in at least in well, actually not just in the West but worldwide, that are probably going to be the ones that are going to be the healthiest a decade from now. Because yeah, I mean, this is something that's not necessarily talked about. I mean, I've known some people who've talked about it because I don't get, this is not an area of specialty. But
But
the
but
current the
hold on, does this like really show you like the elitism? Like
well,
Elon
if you
doesn't
do you
have
do
any government office. He holds no government position, but
you,
he's going to be the one tasked to do this kind of stuff. That's
well, I
elitism
mean, yeah,
to
they
the
talk.
max.
Yeah, well, I mean, Fauci was also an elitist.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that where that sword cuts both ways. Um, you know, but yeah, if you want somebody who's, yeah, you want somebody who's in there. Do you know anybody else that has what is he going to get Javier Milei to come up from Argentina and do it for him? Is he going to get Viktor Orban to come do it for him? Like the number of political leaders right now. This this is a frightening thing, and this is something that you don't hear about because not a lot of news comes out of Africa or like Southeast Asia, but there have been political leaders in Africa who have been attempting to do the same thing that have suddenly found themselves mysteriously booted out of office or die in accidents or get assassinated. And this has been happening with annoying regularity over in Africa and in Southeast Asia. And a lot of people don't even know that that's going on, right? That's if somebody can suggest another option other than Elon Musk to do this, I'm all ears. But I mean, Elon Musk has done it before. And I mean, 2 and 2. This is one of these 2 and 2 = 4 situations. I mean, that would be choice. And yeah, by the way, I'm not fully team Elon. I'm pretty sure that Elon Musk is out for Elon Musk.
We got the Jackal on. The Jackal is full. Well, it's in my opinion, he's full on Tesla. He's got that little sticker that he made. I'm with Tesla.
Yes, I saw that.
We gotta have him on for these Elon topics.
Yeah. Again, like I say, I'm willing to give Elon the benefit of the doubt here. And I'm not going to just disqualify him because he happens to be the richest man on the planet. If he's the guy who can get the job done, then I'd say let him fucking do it, man. But again, right, is Elon Musk a big reformer who's out to like change? He's out. He is out for himself. I have no illusions about that. But I mean, again, it's probably like making, because again, this is what I was going to get into before you stepped in. The current economic system as it currently exists hits a critical self-destructive mass at some point in the 30s. Now, if the Democrats run the show, we might not even get to 2030. If the Republicans run the show, we might make it to 2040. But I mean, we're hitting a critical mass here, and they have to start making changes to the economic. Like the Fed has won. The Fed has absolutely got to fucking go, right? Because there's just so much that has to be cleaned up. I don't think it's going to be possible to do it over 4 years. You're probably going to need at least one more full term of individuals in the mindset of, say, what Trump is doing now for probably, I'm going to say, potentially up to 2 decades. So basically, what's going to have to happen here is that, well, I mean, and the way the Democrats are currently acting, that's probably going to be the case. You got to have at least 2 or 3 presidents that have the intent of basically cleaning shop, and you're going to have them run more or less consecutively for probably about 20 years in order to get this mess cleaned up. That, I hate saying it, but that's how bad it is. Because again, and they are like this 20, the date that I was told was probably about 2035, 2036. Like the current economic zeitgeist talk. If you've ever seen the documentary Zeitgeist talks about this a lot. It just hits a critical point where the way the money is currently being leveraged just cannot sustain the system any longer than it has to. And again, right, part of that belongs to the fact that, I mean, this system that got set up after the Fed took over works only so long as the debt does not grow faster than the rate of inflation. And what they did, what Justin Trudeau did in Canada, what Biden did in the US, and what they've done in other Western countries is they've just completely taken that model and just like thrown it right out the window. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic here. Okay, this is going to be a very interesting. Hold on a second. Come on. All right, there we go. Come on. See, this is the issue with Skype, right? Ever since they stopped servicing it, like it's been getting glitchier and glitchier. All right. Okay, this is a topic of multiple parts. The multiple parts are all kind of tied together here, but I will go through them one at a time. First of all, FEMA is like literally being gutted. This should come as absolutely no surprise to anybody. I'm pretty V. You actually saw that that video with that high-ranking official at FEMA who was more concerned about racial demographics or political demographics around rescuing than whether or not the person was whether or not they were being rescued or not. And all of the botching or that one FEMA official that would basically went and told when that other hurricane hit Florida, where he was basically telling the relief workers to ignore any house that had a Trump sign out front. But I think one of the biggest ones, and I think you'll find this very amusing, is the the fires in LA, in Southern California. There were 30,000 houses that there was anywhere between 30 and 60,000 people that were made homeless because of those fires. There have been at least 250,000 claims laid at FEMA in California trying to cash in on financial damages from the fire, and that at most they should have maybe had about 65,000. One head of household or one person per apartment or whatever, but they had 250,000. Like they had to like literally set something else up to try to process it all, because there were cases in California where people were filing with FEMA and their insurance company and finding out that somebody else had already filed on that place ahead of them. And in some cases, for finding out that maybe there were like 2 claims filed ahead of them on the place that they lived in. Donald Trump has the Trump administration. I mean, he basically told the head of FEMA that basically she's going to be like working herself out of a job. What Trump has decided to do here is that he's not disbanding FEMA outright, although it is getting gutted. What he's doing is that he's just like what he did with abortion. He's reverting it back to the states to organize relief efforts. FEMA will exist. Like it's been gutted, but it didn't get exterminated like the Department of Education and USAID did. But I mean, it will act more as a coordinating agency as opposed to the individuals that are going to be completely responsible for the overall organization efforts. Now, NPR and PBS both getting defunded. Um, I think you'll like this. Jim Jordan tore a massive strip off of the current head of PBS, and I think you'll find this very interesting. There was not a single, and this is something that he pointed out to her. Uh, do you not find it rather unusual that every single programming manager at PBS is a Democrat? Like there wasn't a single Republican in the senior leadership at PBS. The current president of PBS actually went to and did a TED talk where she literally said that she can't let such a thing as the truth get in the way of reporting. Yeah, let that sink in. NPR isn't quite as bad, but they're pretty goddamn close. Again, right, same thing's going to happen in Canada with CBC if Poliev gets elected. But I mean, yeah, I will just bring up one thing in particular about PBS. There was one show. I mean, the thing I remember most about PBS was the fact that they would air Doctor Who episodes, and they introduced me to Red Dwarf, which is still the damn funniest sci-fi TV series that I have ever watched ever. And there was a show that still plays on PBS called Nova, and I used to watch it religiously, like every
Oh yeah, me
Tuesday.
too.
Yeah, I used to watch Nova religiously, but I mean, if you watch Nova now, they're not outright political, but I mean, it's very, very clear that they're pushing the DEI message. It's very, very clear that they're pushing the green agenda. It's very, very clear that they're pushing the woke agenda, right? Um, they're they're not right out and rubbing it in your face like say CNN is, but I mean, like even on Nova, like you see the way the documentaries are being brought out. That this like you can see the propaganda
Well,
in a show like Nova.
I could tell you a reason for that very quickly. Um, I had just watched. I like watching like band videos, like not the videos themselves, but like the compilation videos of shows that have gotten banned through whatever networks for whatever reason. And PBS gets hit hard for stuff. There's always some group complaining about something. So the safest route for them to actually do anything, the safest way, is to be kind of all inclusive and doing a little bit of that woke just so they can not waste money on productions.
Yeah, yeah, it's again the I mean yeah, Jim Jordan just like literally tore into this woman. It was like, and it's like yeah, he brought I think he even brought up no he didn't. But it was like, you know, the man at the head of PBS shouldn't be going on to a TED talk and talking about how truth gets in the way of what they're trying to do. Like, wow. Okay. Now, there is a possibility that may have been taken out of context, just like how that one woman, that one Indian director who was going to be given a chance to do that Star Wars movie, and she had done a documentary on honor killings, and that quote saying "I want to make men as uncomfortable as possible" got taken out of context. So it's possible that that got taken out of context, and if it was taken out of context, that will be revealed. Um, it's kind of hard to not. It's kind of hard to dance around the fact that like literally every single department head and senior official over at PBS is a Democrat, like literally every single one. Same thing over, it's not quite as bad over at NPR, but still, same thing, right? These are media agencies. They have to be, like the media is going to have to return to they're going to have, well, first of all, the mainstream media is going to have to start doing what's been happening on at places like YouTube and Rumble and so forth. They're going to have to start going back to a form of reporting like that. They're going to have to do kind of like what I do, right? Like, I mean, I agree with Trump, but I am not on Team Trump, for instance, right? I agree with a lot of what Elon is doing. But yes, I'm also aware that he's a transhumanist and he's fully in favor of shipping people and all that sort of stuff. And I'm keeping that in mind with him, right? You know, um, Same thing here, right? Like these organizations have to, again, they have to clean themselves up and start doing an actual balanced job of giving us entertainment and reporting facts, or they're nothing like propaganda. And again, to quote Noam Chomsky, to expect governments not to propagandize their people would be not like getting pissed off at governments for using propaganda would be like getting pissed off at Microsoft for selling computers, right? It's gonna happen. But I mean, PBS and NPR aren't even trying to hide it anymore. Like they've got a clear bias. And the last one, and this is something that RFK Jr. had been talking about. He specifically wanted the Department of Health, and he is basically doing the same thing over at the Department of Health that Elon Musk is doing with the greater government in general. One of the one of the ones that RFK brought up in particular with one of these is that there were two, in some cases, like there was, I can't remember how many people, 20,000 employees at these agencies that were responsible for cell phones and laptops and making sure that they were being serviced and taken care of. And that was like way too many. And again, right, he's finding a lot of bloat. He's also finding a lot of corruption. And again, he hasn't even started really getting into it, right? Because there's kind of been, and this has been an issue with the pharmaceutical industry for years, there's been a revolving door issue with big pharma and the government, where somebody will leave the private sector and go over to a government job and work it for a few years, and then he'll return to the private sector and go work for Pfizer or whatever, and then back and forth and back and forth. And it's like, yeah, like this creates buddy nepotism, buddy networks, which really came out to the fore when we were talking about COVID. And what RFK Jr. is doing is that he's basically he's removing a lot of the COVID bloat. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yeah. Whew, I don't have much to add to that. I do know it got crazy over here in California with the fires. People that I know personally who were affected directly by the fires. As you know, I'm here in Oroville, California. This sort of a quiet retirement town. Well, I mean, it's not that anymore. I mean, used to have a very small population. It's pretty much doubled. And it's weird, when I lived here 10 years ago, very small, just hardly anything here. And now it's I come back and places where I'm used to seeing just land for miles and miles and miles, and now you see apartment complexes for a mile here, a mile there, a mile over here. Uh, so the people are taking advantage of the fires. I'll tell you what. I have a friend who I was staying with, who was in a low income apartment, and their rent was like $650. Oh well, the owners of the apartment decided to tack on an extra $300. It's supposed to be a low income housing. How are you going to pay $1,000 a month? You can't. So there are people who are buying up houses and apartment complexes, condemning them just to kick people out, of their homes, and repainting the apartments and reopening them. It's a crime. It makes me want to weep for mankind, because this is how we treat each other. Anytime we can take advantage of others, because people don't look at other people like people anymore. People look at other people like their resources. They look at another person and think, how can I get over on this person? What can I squeeze out of this person? And everybody's got the sickness. It's not just the establishment. It's everybody. This is how we look at each other now. This is the human condition, and it's very sick. I'm very disappointed. But I do want to take 60 seconds here to address the trolls in the chat.
Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah.
We'll call it Mr. Know-It-All. We'll call him Mr. Know-It-All. Teams and Skype, yes, they might be owned by Microsoft both, but they're totally different platforms. They're not the same thing. Also, yes, when I recorded video on Skype, yes, it does happen on the computer. The boxes switch around. They do. I have video proof of this. Because I used to do screen records. There's a time where I would do Skype recordings, and yeah, sometimes the recordings didn't come through. I did have problems at a point in time, so I started using other programs to screen record, and I had to do that via a computer. So yes, it does happen that way. Anyways, it, you pretty much have hit the other stuff out of the ballpark there, Roki. So I have nothing really else to add.
Okay, all right. I to Angel, who's actually listening, who's posting up that last comment you made about Doge. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is why the Democrats really can't say too much about it, because this was definitely, a lot of this stuff was brought up under Obama. That was a very interesting point, Angel. Thank you very much. The whole the whole the whole thing around this is the fact that this has to be done, like, it absolutely, like, beyond any measure of reason or insanity. They have to do this. They have to do this now. They have to start making these changes now. They potentially may have less than a decade to do this before the whole economic, and again, right, this is something that, if you looked at the Zeitgeist, is the only documentary I've seen that actually really discusses this to a great degree. But the economic system as it currently exists is going to, like, literally self-destruct within a couple of by 2040. It's not going to matter whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats in place. Like, they have to start making these changes now, because, like, I mean, at this point, like, there's no way that there's even with all of these changes that they've made, there's still going to be some nasty pain coming down the road for a lot of people when this finishes. back in 2035. Like, I mean, it's like, yeah, like this what Trump is doing.
You cut out there. You still there? You mute yourself. Yeah, I gotta unmute. All right, everybody, welcome to the V Show.
Well, you gotta love it when the feed just drops like that. Yeah, you know, yeah. There's a lot going down, and it's not gonna be fun. And it's like if they don't make these changes, I mean, wow. Also, at that point, and going back to topic number three, you know, you throw in that economic pressure on top of everything else that this current generation of men and boys is dealing with. Yeah, just stop and think about this. We've already got a situation with men and boys where every every action that they do is wrong. You know, that type of a situation going on. They're being like, people are laying guilt on them for stuff that they didn't even do, right? And then on top of that, you throw in an economic collapse that makes the Great Depression look like a picnic potentially. Yeah, like it's it's not gonna be fun. But anyway, unless V has something else to say, we're going to move on to the last topic of the night, which is the FBI faction of the show. Here, let me just do a timestamp here. Yes, by the way, that is Ray Epps now on the screen. So, yeah, if you have been, if like Rumble in particular posted up a whole bunch of content that would never have been allowed on YouTube anyway. But Rumble posted up a lot of content. Ray Epps was on Revolver. That Revolver article was an eye opener for me. Ray Epps was featured prominently on there, and I found it very interesting that they somehow found the time and effort and energy to arrest and charge Isabella DeLuca because she put her hand on a table that was been taken out of the Capitol building. But somehow the FBI office in Phoenix dragged its fucking ass for damn near 3 years before they finally got her. They only arrested Ray Epps because it was very, very clear that if they didn't do it, they were going to lose a lot of credibility. Well, Epps got sentenced. And, I find this very ironic when you consider the fact that there are people who spent 3 and 4 years in jail over J6. Uh, Ray Epps got parole. He got 2 years of parole, effectively a slap on the wrist. And again, right, there is going to be an investigation about what happened on January the 6th and that is also going to be coming up down the line. So Epps is not necessarily out of the woods yet. The reason why this is the FBI section, because both this and the Epstein video files. Okay, we're going to go back to when that binder got released a few weeks ago, right? And you had those YouTubers and TikTokers like waving these around. And when people actually started getting into the nuts and bolts of it, they noticed that it was like there's nothing really all that original about this stuff that got that got released. Well, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, since most of the stuff was held at the New York office, they went into the New York office. they promptly fired the head of the New York office, and they did something with the video files, which I thought was probably long overdue. And they sent copies of the video files to every single field office in the United States, which makes trying to cover up what happened on those video files a lot more difficult. Because, yeah, Bondi and Cash Patel really got some serious egg on their faces. And again, we're going back. Let's just go back to the Signalgate thing, right? This may have been a coordinated attempt by somebody at the New York office to make Cash Patel and Pam Bondi look bad. So what do you do in a situation where somebody is holding on to information and is doing it in a way to try to make you look bad or incompetent? Is you democratize the information and you send it out everywhere. Therefore, it is beyond the control of an individual or a handful of individuals to make attempts to try to suppress the information. Now, apparently, there is some very disturbing footage in those Epstein video files, and they're not being shown to every person in every FBI office. But some of the early leaks have suggested that the list that was released on that faux binder gate situation that occurred a few weeks ago, apparently there are individuals in those video files that have not been named, that were not named in the binders or were not on the flight logs or whatever, but are on those video files, but are on the video files. So yeah, this whole situation with Epstein is far from over. And yeah, keep reminding me, V, that we are definitely going to have to do a P. Diddy special. And with that, I am going to turn it over to you.
Let's make America great again. Damn. America.
That's the ammunition.
praise Lord. Praise damn. Oh, that's right. You know what? a Fed who, with a moral compass, rising through the ranks to be head of an office and leaking information. A Fed with a moral compass? I call fake news. Yeah, I don't know, but still. When you have to be an agent saboteur in your own government, and see, it's really special, and something that I would like for people to do. If you've never seen the show called Man in the High Castle, please go buy it, go rent it, stream it, hell, pirate it. I don't care how you get it. But there's a TV series called Man in the High Castle.
I've heard of it. It's a very interesting. I haven't read it or anything like that. I haven't seen it, but I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah, so it's about an alternate history of the world. It's one of those what if Hitler won the war. So you have like America divided up between the Japanese and the Nazis, and the level of political intrigue and the espionage and the backstabbings. It's incredible. It's just really good. It has no real political importance in the real world, but it just gives you examples of what it is actually is like. Like having a vice Reichsfuhrer gunned down on television because he reported that Hitler died. Being gunned down on the air. That's totally some Nazi stuff that would totally happen. But anyways, yeah, just you know what? Where are the rest of these guys? Where are the rest of these Ted Gundersons at? You know, leak the information, and so am I to understand the January 6th videos were leaked and Epstein videos were leaked?
No, just the Epstein videos.
Okay,
No, they
just
weren't.
Epstein videos.
They weren't leaked. They were sent copies. Like they were
Set
copied,
copies.
and everything was sent to every single field office in the United
Okay,
States.
so there are some people on there who are implicated, who have enough money and power to have the main group of feds, the main group of FBI to be on their side. If you've got a guy who's the guy didn't send it to the media. This office, head of this office, he didn't send it to the media. He didn't send it to Russia. He sent it to other FBI uh, offices. Where's the firing offense in that? What says that?
Well, no, it wasn't the head of the New York office that did this. This was Pam Bondi and Kash Patel bringing their own team in and
Oh,
doing that. Yeah, no, this wasn't the head of the New York office.
oh,
This was the head of the New York office was the one that gave them all that bogus information for that binder
oh,
situation, which embarrassed the fuck out of Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. So they
yes.
went into the New York office probably plenty pissed. They brought their own team with them. They told the head of the New York office, "Yeah, pack your shit, you're leaving." And they took all of the video footage of that they had of Epstein there. They made copies of it and they sent it out to every single field office.
Okay. So wait, so then what's this guy's official position within the government?
The head of the New York FBI office,
No, the Patel.
Kash Patel's head of the FBI.
Oh, he's the head.
Yet Pam Bondi is
Oh,
the
okay.
attorney. Pam Bondi is the attorney general.
I got the guy switched up. Okay. Well, still, that's pretty damn cool to have the head, the big head, say no, you're not covering this up. Wow. So the corruption is probably going from the bottom up then, if it's not coming from the top down, which is well, that speaks a little bit on our leadership here, on our law enforcement there for a hot minute there. That's a moment of not being corrupt. I'm rather speechless. I'm a little bit proud. My country produced a head of a bureau that wasn't corrupt. Yeah, well, oof. I don't know. Maybe there's something more to it. There could be something more to it. Who knows? But there's always the thing is there's always factions within these organizations. I mean, any governmental organizations, you have factions. It's not just a bipartisan sort of thing. It's you've got, like for example, notoriously the LA Police Department. They have their own gangs in the police departments. Many gangs. Some of them are connected to street gangs. So it's like, where does the corruption start, and where does it end? You don't know. So Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that with me. So yeah, that's amazing. I don't have anything really to say to that, except for maybe I don't know if this guy uh, has his own agenda. Perhaps maybe there's somebody he wants to take down that's in those videos that could lead to something else. That could lead to something else. That could lead to something else. That's real police work.
Yes,
That's
it
real
is.
thought.
It's like I am curious to find out who is on those video files as opposed to like who is on the flight logs. Because the flight logs, I mean, for instance, Trump took a flight from New York to Mar-a-Lago on Epstein's plane at one point, right? And
Yeah,
you've got leftists like screaming, "Oh, well, he was one of the abusers and blah 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 blah." That no, it's like I mean, same thing with Chris Rock and a couple other people. They took Epstein's plane from Florida to Africa for a promotional event, right?
right,
Like flying on Epstein's plane isn't proof enough, right?
right.
Even perhaps going to the island, like there's a possibility that even with some of the people that went over to the island, right? That there was like, oh yeah, there's this Epstein owns this private island, and you can have a nice private location with a private beach, and you can have some, and you can just basically hang out there for a couple of days and just like chill out, and that's a possibility too. Like, yeah, just even going to the island itself doesn't necessarily constitute guilt. Guilt only starts to happen when you have eyewitnesses or actual footage of you doing something. And of course, the fact that there were people that didn't necessarily take Epstein's plane to the island who flew there on their own, right? And did this stuff, right? Like,
Yep.
yep. So, I mean, it's like, like, yeah, simply like proximity, which, by the way, is something that leftists and bread tubers try to use quite a bit. You know, proximity to something does not infer guilt. Like, guilt is, yeah, you did this. We have you on tape. We have eyewitnesses of you doing this. That's what counts. And I'm like I say, I'm not making excuses for these people because Epstein's
No.
reputation had great. I mean, Alex Jones was talking about Epstein years before he had actually happened,
Right.
right? So Epstein's reputation did precede itself. So I mean, not necessarily completely in the clear. And I have I seriously doubt because I have and I've gone or been around really toxic, bad individuals like this before. I mean, I talked about my brief encounter with Robert Pickton when he was still before he got caught, and just the creepy vibe he fucking gave, right? And it's like absolutely no way that somebody with Epstein's
Yeah.
makeup could not have had that type of energy about him, right? Um,
Well, I mean, what
Still,
people need to be looking at as far as the list is concerned, they need to be looking at who has priors. Does anybody have any prior instances, maybe any rumors about them? And that's your lead, you know?
exactly. Anyway, very interesting. I'm glad that Pam Bondi and Cash Patel did this. It suggests because, like, I mean, I was listening to Blair White here a couple of days ago, and Blair White was saying, especially after the Binder release, that there's a very real possibility, and she's of the opinion, well, she, because she's a transgender.
I was gonna
Um,
say, is that the hot transgender?
yeah, the
Ooh.
hot conservative transgender, and she's been saying that. I mean, you have to potentially get used to the fact that the government is run by an elite pedophile cabal that has very vested interests in not revealing this information unless it suits their purposes. And so it's going to require a seriously dedicated effort on the part of people in government to actually go after these people. Right now, eventually, what's going to happen is there is going to be names that are going to start getting leaked because that's just the way it works inside the government. And the names, I'm going to give a lot more credibility to names being released via the video files that were released, as opposed to Epstein posing in a staged shot next to Donald Trump, or Ghislaine Maxwell standing in a shot at a social event, standing right next to Elon Musk. Stuff like that proves nothing. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Any more comments before we wrap it up tonight, V?
Ghislaine.
Ghislaine.
Yeah, put whatever meaning on that you want. That's it for me.
All right, folks. Gonna put the banner in here again. Yeah, Patreon is at the red at Patreon. I'm gonna be doing this until I die or find something better to do. Like, subscribe. I hope we didn't bore you tonight. I will be doing a I will try to do, because I had a lot going on this week. I wanted to do a Naroki 5 a live stream on my other on the other show that I've got going on. I just had a lot going on my days off this time around. So yep. So that is it for tonight. I hope you all enjoyed yourself, and we will see you again. And I will try to make sure that we get it done on Sunday for next week. So thank you very much for showing up tonight. And I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope you got some really good information out of this. And just remember, for all the people, you have to have TDS. Orange Man Bad Handball. I found a new product. I haven't got the official endorsement for it yet, but I will be hopefully ready. It will hopefully be ready with the supplies to come out next week. But just remember, for the people in your life that just can't stop talking about the Orange Man Bad Handball, it's there for you, man. No more cherry blisters on your member. And that is it for tonight. Thanks.